Welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Where pain becomes purpose, no fear, no remorse. Say it again. Through the pain, through the fire, through the worst of my day. We made it, we made it. I found purpose in the breaking. Right there. Survival isn't a whisper. I know. Go if you listen, you survive. Still breathing, still alive. God never wastes the hurting. Every chapter had a rolling tide.
Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival.
From pain comes purpose. No fear, no remorse. Survival isn't a whisper. Through the worst of my day. In the breakers and no whisper. It's so raw.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Here's where we turn pain into purpose, because survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. Before we get started, there's a couple of things I need from you. The first thing is, would you please go in, like, share, and subscribe to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast? Secondly, where are you tuning in from? I'm here in Aiken, South Carolina. Put in the comment box below where you're tuning in from. Are you following me on all of my social media platforms? If not, please do so at Gail Estella. And lastly, Through It All by Gail Estella. Have you purchased your copy yet? If you haven't, it's not too late. You can go to TrueVinePublishingCompany.org, Amazon.com, or anywhere books are sold. My guest for tonight, Miss Chariel Dye, has a compelling, interesting story to tell. And her story is one of courage. Her story is one of survival. Her story is one of boldness. And I am so excited for her to be a guest on the show tonight. I met her at an event in Charlotte. Miss Jeanette McKinnon was honoring domestic abuse survivors. And there was so many of us there, and we were in all shapes, forms, and colors, and we looked so good, and we had an S on our chest. And she's going to tell her story, and she's going to tell what it is that she's doing with her Queendom Nation. Miss Chariel, are you ready to come in?
I'm ready. Let's go, Queen. Hi, how are you?
How are you doing tonight?
Great. What a great introduction. I was like, I don't even know how to follow that. Wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I am so glad that you are here. We've spoken on numerous occasions, and just your story. Your story, like I said, is one of great strength. And I want us to talk about it. But before we jump into that, tell the audience a little bit about you and the Queendom Nation.
Yeah. So being a domestic violence survivor, you lose yourself. And you have to go back and you have to refine yourself and understand who you are as an individual. So the Queendom Nation was birthed out of me understanding that, first of all, none of that was my fault. And second of all, I'm a queen, and I'm a queen by nature. And so we began the Queendom Nation movement because I met a lot of young women that were going through their own storms, that needed a space and a place to be able to talk about the different things that they were dealing with. So within that realm, we created my nonprofit organization, and we'll talk about that later, Great Women and Men United Incorporated. And we needed a name to commemorate the space that we were using to talk about the things that we dealt with. And so we named it Queens in Training. And we love the name because it talked about young women that are still becoming the queen that they are supposed to be. That's why they are still in training. And so with that, being the voice of the community through the youth, birthed the Queendom Nation. radio show because I wanted all these young ladies to understand that they were queens no matter what. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. We are
thank
queens no matter what, no matter what
you.
we've gone through,
Right.
no matter what our past looks like,
That's right.
we're
We
still
are all,
queens.
that's
Yeah.
right. Queen.
So you said that you are also, or we know that you are a survivor of domestic abuse as well.
I
How
am.
long has it been since you've been in your relationship?
It has been 24 years. 24 years since I walked out the door. I left in 2001.
2004 years.
Yes.
Congratulations for having the
Thank you.
courage to
Thank
walk
you.
away.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk about the relationship. How old were you when you met him? Was he your boyfriend? Was he your husband?
Right. What's funny? When you're a teenager and your parents be like, watch them boys, and you in
Yes.
your mind you're thinking, I like the boys, and sometimes you become an adult, you think back to what she said. But in lieu of you asking the question, I met him when I was 14. He was a good friend of a friend of mine's. And we had all decided that we was going to hang out that night. And she was like, Chariel, I have this guy that, wants to meet you. And I was like, okay, cool. And so we all went and just kind of hung out at her house that night. Like I said, I was 14. I think at the time he was maybe 17, 18, somewhere up in there. And with me being as young as I was, he respected that. And so he was getting ready to graduate high school and he was going into the military sometime during, that year. And so he told me, he said, if you're single, when I get out the military and you're of age, I'll come back for you. I was like, okay. All right. So he left and went off to the military. And just like he said, when I turned 18, he came back for me. Shocking, but true. And we started dating, taking me as a very nice guy, very, very nice, very attentive. But I could tell that some things had, kind of rattled his childhood when it came to his dad, because a lot of times when we would hang out, he would talk about his dad. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand the magnitude of that, him making a lot of those statements until we moved in together.
So when he talked about his dad in a demeaning way, or in a derogatory way, was he angry when he talked about him?
He was actually remorseful because his dad had passed away while he was in the military. And whatever had happened in between that situation, he wasn't very clear about. And so I didn't understand. But many times he would wake up calling for his dad. So I assumed that they had a very good relationship. And I believe he got sick and they never had that closure. He never got to say goodbye.
Okay.
And so that haunted him, quite a bit. He spoke about that quite a bit throughout the relationship. Yes, ma'am. And then we ended up we were together for a couple months, I think about six months maybe. And he proposed to me. And so we were engaged. I think I was 18 when we got engaged, and we were still just kind of hanging out, enjoying life, just partying, whatever. And then my birth mother ended up moving to North Carolina, and my birth mother met him, and my birth mother she didn't like him when she first met him. And then when she found out that I was 18 and engaged, she really didn't like him.
Because you were 18, he was 21.
Right. I had just got out of high school. I hadn't, done anything as far as aspirations, career-wise, none of that stuff. And so she was very worried about that.
So
she kept,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, she kept telling him, you are not marrying my daughter.
So the time before you turned 18 and he came back, did you date at all before that time?
Well, because I was still young, I just had like little guy friends that would come around and hang out with me, but it was never nothing to me what I would call a grown-up type relationship.
Okay.
Because I experienced what we call a grown-up type relationship with him.
So what was it? Did your mother ever tell you what it was about him that she didn't like?
She said it was just something about him. She wouldn't.
Something about
it. She just kept saying it was something about him that she didn't like. But her thing was, as long as my daughter is happy, I'm happy.
Okay.
And she made it very clear, if you hurt my child, I'm going to hurt you. She didn't play. She was very clear about that. And so when it all started going down, it was crazy. I was afraid to tell her because I knew my mother. She didn't play nobody putting their hands on her children, especially her daughters,
So did the abuse begin before you got married or after you got married?
It actually began before. The first time I had seen it, I believe we had got into he drinking, because drinking was his vice.
Yes.
And so he would drink a lot. And that's when I started seeing the demons come out. And I can't remember. We were having a conversation about something. I can't quite remember. And he didn't like what I had to say. And the anger came out. And then it was first, he never hit in my face or nothing like that. He had a bad habit of choking me. That was his thing. He didn't want no bruises on my face or anything like that. So he would choke. It would shut me up, because one thing about his mother, I could honestly say when I first met her, she had told me that his father was abusive. And she had let me know that he had done this to a young lady before me. And so she asked me, she said, if he ever did that to you, please let me know. That's what she told me.
Okay.
But I didn't see that, in him at first because he was so kind. He always bought me nice gifts. We shopped a lot. The first time I ever shopped till I dropped, I was with him, But he was very nice. He was very cordial. But like I said, whenever the drinking would start, then that's when you would see the demons and then the choking.
The choking. His mother told you.
Yeah.
So you knew firsthand from his mother. Mothers don't usually tell on their sons.
No, because she was one of those mothers that she didn't want to see that happen to another young lady because she had already experienced it with the young lady before me.
So that was the first sign.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Why did you ignore the signs?
Well, because for one, I was young. I wasn't but 18. I had never lived with any guys. And nobody really had that conversation with me that men are supposed to do this to you. I was so young and I was what they call green, I guess you would want to call it.
Yes.
I was a little green at the time, a little naive, and I was in love. When we in love, we hear the signs, but we don't see the signs. And at the time I was hearing it, but I wasn't seeing it, so.
Blind and so on. So the first time that it happened, so the very first time the abuse happened, was it the physical or did you experience any type of emotional or verbal up until then?
It was verbal mostly. Yeah. The B word, calling me out my name, being very disrespectful, talking to me crazy in front of my friends because my friends had got to the point they was like, hold up, you're not going to talk to my girl like that. They would step in and they would, kind of be my savior. And it was more so that. And then it was telling me, what I could and could not wear.
Yes.
How I could do my hair. I wasn't allowed to put weave in my hair. I wasn't allowed to cut my own fingernails because he was a military man. He cut my nails for me. I couldn't wear revealing type clothes because he believed in covering your body at least 3/4 of your body. He didn't want people looking at you. So a lot of the clothes that I wore, I dressed like a boy. I would wear button-down shirts and baggy pants and sneakers. And his mother would sometimes be like, why are you dressing like a boy? And I remember the first time I actually put on a skirt and, a nice little top, his mother took me and bought me clothes and dressed me like a girl. And she put me in front of a mirror and she said, have you ever looked at yourself? And I was like, what do you mean? She said, look at your body. She said, you have a beautiful body and you cover it up with all this. And I was like, I never really paid attention to that. Mm-hmm. So that was abuse and it was conditioning. And I didn't realize it at the time. He would also, because he was a military man, whenever we would do laundry, I would wash clothes. I had to iron everything military style. So it couldn't lay in the basket. We had to, as soon as it came out the dryer, you got to iron it, hang it up a certain way. Pants had to be a certain way. Shirts had to be a certain way. Everything had to be folded a certain way in the drawer. Even when you made the bed, the sheets had to be, a certain way on the bed. Everything had to be to the T. as if we were in the military.
You know, and as you're saying all of this to me, telling this story, I'm visualizing all of it in my head.
Yes,
And with
ma'am.
you being so young,
Yeah. My friends
it had to be exhausting and tiring, because it would be exhausting for the adult. But for a young person, so much structure.
Yeah. It was a lot, and it was a lot for me. But I settled in. I became what they call routine. It became routine to me. I couldn't drive, so I couldn't go anywhere. You know, everything I did had to be on his time. You know, whenever I went places, if I go out with my friends, he would call repeatedly, want to know where am I at, when you coming home, and it didn't matter when I came home, I would still get cussed out or called out my name or disrespected. And then what was also crazy, because he always had me these baggy clothes. Whenever I would go to my friend's house, they would dress me. They would take me out of the baggy clothes and put me in girl clothes. And so I think one time I came home in the girl clothes, and boy, he did not like that. Did not like that at all. Yes. And my mom,
you said had me in baggy clothes.
Yeah.
So talk about the mentality of a victim, because someone may be watching this and they may say something like, well, how did he have you in baggy clothes? It was your choice to wear the baggy clothes. And when you said condition. So talk about that a little bit, how we become conditioned and we conform, and why do we do it?
Right. And it's so crazy. That's a good question, because we conform not even realizing that we're doing it. Because we get so used to the routine that it seems almost normal to us. We don't realize that there is anything wrong with it. And so we just do it. And like I said, because I was 18, he was the first guy that I was ever with, that I lived with. I was in love with the man. And I figured if he telling me whatever it is, it's got to be right, you know, because he wouldn't tell me nothing wrong. We in a relationship together. And so what I would tell young women is, when it gets to a point to where it feels like you are doing more to accommodate him than yourself, that becomes a problem. And I noticed that everything I did was accommodating him, folding his clothes, because he wasn't doing that with my clothes. You know, everything I did was conforming to him. It was taking me out of myself and making sure that I was pleasing him. But in the same time, losing me and not even realizing that I was doing it, you know. And so it took me a good while before I realized the conditioning. And I didn't even realize what the conditioning was till I became a preschool teacher. They taught us what you have classical conditioning. It's where you do something the same repeatedly to where it just becomes a part of your normal routine, you know. And that's what it was to me. It was just a part of our normal routine. I'd wake up, we wash the clothes, I iron them, I do this. And then my friends, they were telling me, Chariel, something is wrong with this picture. You know, they kept telling me, and I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it because I loved him. I loved him. and I don't even know if women can truly understand. But when you love somebody to that depth, and it's your first love on that level, you love them, and there is nothing nobody can tell you. They could shoot from sun up to sundown, and still there is nothing nobody can tell you. You love them. So I paid the cost.
Isn't that a sad place to be?
It is. It's a very, very sad place to be, because what we think is love is not. It's not love. It's conformity. It's pretty much selling your soul to the devil.
It is. I like that word, conformity. And that is. Now, let me ask this. I'm going to go back real quick. You said something about his mother.
Yeah.
Asked you, why were you wearing the baggy clothing all the time?
Yes.
Did she ever ask you, is my son hurting you?
She did. She did. And I would never tell her. Because I was embarrassed.
So she knew.
I believe she knew. Because I was one of those people when I first got with him. I was very outgoing. I was very bubbly. And then I got to where I was kind of an introvert. I didn't talk to a lot of people. I didn't deal with a lot of people. I stayed in the room most of the time. And I think she kind of knew, because she had experienced those same things. She had been through those very same symptoms. And I think that she was kind of like, something's not right here. And when she talked to me that night, she didn't come at me aggressively or nothing. She just said, Chariel, if he's hurting you, let me know. say something. And I still couldn't say anything because I was embarrassed. I didn't want her to know that he was abusing me, you know, and it was abuse because sometimes like you would see the horns come out, those eyes, you know, I'd be like, who are you? You know, it would transform so fast. You wouldn't even know who you're standing there in front of, you know. So
talk about that, because I too can remember that. To me, it was like a metamorphosis.
yeah.
You know, it's beginning to happen, and like you say, right in front of your eyes, this person literally transfigures.
Yes.
In front of you.
You literally watch the anger as it rises in them. It escalates. And what they do is you can, because I used to hush because it got to a point to where I know if I kept feeding it, it would keep happening. So I wouldn't say anything, and that would make him even madder. When he didn't say nothing, he would get even madder. And so the madder he got and the more furious he got, the more that face would change and the more those eyes would get real deep. And I would be so scared. I'll lie to you not. I would be so scared of what is he going to do to me, because he didn't care once he got to that point.
Yeah.
You know, now that I'm here, now let's go. And at first it was the jumping on me. It was abusing me. And then it got to where I was like, I must be crazy to keep letting this man hit me. And then it got to where we were fighting. You know, we was tearing stuff up. We was fighting, tearing stuff up, you know, because I got tired of him putting his hands on me. And I remember one night he had jumped on me really bad, and I had to call my mother to come and get me. And my mother was a minister. And one thing my mother believed, she believed in honoring your marriage, but she did not believe in abusing your wife. And so when I called her that morning to come and get me, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. He had been up all night drinking and jumped on me probably much all night. And she came. This was the first time I'd ever called her and asked her to come and get me. And she said, she looked at him and she picked up that bottle that was sitting beside him. And she said, this ain't helping you. She said, if my daughter needs to be beat, you call me and I'll beat her. She said, but don't you put your hands on my child. And she told him, she gave me this little button, and the button said, women's bodies are not battlefields. And she told me, she said, I need you to wear that button every day. She said, but for now, I'm taking you home. And she took me home. And that was the first time I had a heart-to-heart with my mother to let her know that I was being abused. And she looked at me and she said, Chariel, she said, I understand it's your husband, but you don't have to endure that. She said, it's your choice. She said, I would never tell you to leave your husband because I honor marriage. She said, but I would never tell you to stay in a place where you're being abused because I don't condone that. And believe it or not, the whole time I was there, he would call me and she would let him come by, you know, he would come by, hang out with me, you know, and then we got to a point to where everything was back good. And I
how long did you stay away?
I was gone maybe about 6 months. About 6 months I left.
That's a long time.
It was. And during that time, honey, he swooned and he came in and he made sure he was that good man that he was supposed to be to get you back in. You know how they know how to get you back in. But once we got back in and we ended up getting a home together, and that's when I really saw, boy, the other side. Once we got our home out in the country where there was nobody that I could run to, boy,
the isolation.
Yeah.
Now you're isolated from everyone.
Yes. I mean, I remember we had this neighbor. Me and her birthday was the same day. I would go over there to the house, and I remember one day I went over there and this lady was just crying, and I was like, "What's wrong?" And she was afraid to talk to me, and I said, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" And she told me that my husband had been over there trying to hit on her, like trying to be with her. And she liked me and she didn't think that was appropriate. And so me and him got into a physical altercation that night. We were fighting. I remember that night he snatched the phones out the wall so I couldn't call anybody. But the good thing about it, one of his friends was staying with us at the time. And I will forever be grateful to this friend because there were times he stepped in and saved my life. So I thank him so much for everything he ever did for me back then. But he stepped in that night and he told him, he said, you're not gonna put your hands on her. He said, whatever you was doing over there, you did it. He said, and they've been friends long before I met him. And they got into an argument that night because he told me, you're not going to abuse her, because he was just beating me all through the house. Like, didn't even care. Like I was a rag doll. And they got into it real bad. And actually, his friend left that night, moved out of our house that night because he said he couldn't stand by and watch this continue to happen. You know, and I remember a time after that, me and him, we were out at a restaurant and we got into an argument because we both used to drink a lot. That was back when we used to drink a lot, both drinking. And we got into an argument at the bar and he left me there. He got in the car and just drove home and left me like I was.
And you were his wife.
Yeah, I was the wife then. And his best friend, I called the best friend because the best friend was staying with us at the house then. I called the best friend and asked him, could he come pick me up? And so he came and he picked me up and he kept asking me, what's wrong, Chariel? Why did he leave you? And I told the friend I didn't want to talk about it. So I came home, got dressed, took a shower, put on pajamas. And I'll never forget, Queen, I had this white nightgown, Snow White. And when he came in that door, I was sitting in the living room on the couch. And when he walked in that door and saw me sitting in there, know that I had got home without him, he jumped across that table and he grabbed me by my throat. And I mean, literally picked me up by my throat and dragged me into the bedroom by my throat and was just beating me in the room. I'm talking beating me till my head was hanging off the bed. And he was just choking me. And I remember he had these boots that was sitting beside the bed. And I took the boot and I just hit him, in the mouth with the boot and it busted his face. And so his blood just went all over my beautiful white nightgown and everything. And his friend could hear us arguing. And at this point, he done picked me up by the throat again. It was pouring down raining that night, drugged me outside. And once we got out there, where he drugged me to was right at the window of his friend that was living there. And so his friend came out there and I mean, he went off. He was so mad. He was so angry. He was like, why are you doing this to her? What is your problem? And it still didn't dawn on me to leave. Like I still stayed after that. I still stayed because I didn't have the strength to walk away. I didn't know how to walk away. I didn't know what he would do if I walked away. Mm-hmm. I just stayed. But my best friend, Stephanie, she was on me. She was on me so hard. She kept saying, Chariel, come on. I need you to get it together. You don't deserve this. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? I couldn't drive. I had no driver's license. I had no car. I couldn't do anything for myself. I could barely keep a job because, he would start stuff with me.
Yes. You couldn't go to work
some days. And then if I go to work, I'm at work crying all day and then they send me home. So it was
and you know what, Chariel? We can laugh about it now because it's not funny because someone else is going through this right now. And I hope that someone is watching and this is them. It's no ridicule. It's not demeaning anything that you're going through, but just the remembrance of it. And I think for me, it's like, wow.
Yeah. I looked back. Can't believe I went through that and I stayed through that. What was wrong with me? Mm-hmm. But then you had to come to the realization it wasn't me. Wasn't nothing wrong with me. The question is what was wrong with him? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't me at all. It wasn't me. And what's crazy is I thank God for my brothers too, y'all. Because during the up until I was getting ready to leave, I remember my brothers were bringing my birth mother up to see me. And my birth mother was realizing something was wrong with her child. She kept looking at me. She said I didn't look the same. Like I looked like everything had been drained out of me.
Yes.
Yeah, she said, you don't look right, Chariel. She said, something I need you to know. She said, this is not working. And I remember her, this was in 95, if I'm not mistaken, 95. 96, she ended up moving to Salisbury, North Carolina. And I would come down and I would see her, from time to time. And I remember her telling, you're going to get tired, Chariel. You're going to get tired. I know you love him, but you're going to get tired. She told me that. And so when I came down after, I come down in 2000, it was 2000, I come down to see her and we hung out and she was so full of life, just crazy. So she told me, she said, Chariel, she said, I'm not doing well. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, she had told me that she had, had the skin cancer, which I already knew she had that. And she told me that she wasn't doing well. And so I said, what do you need me to do? She said, just be here for me. I said, okay. Okay. This was in 2001. I came back. And I'm going to say about the end of May going into June, my mother started getting really, really sick. I remember my brothers, I was living in Statesville at the time, and my brothers had brought her up to the job to see me. And my mother collapsed in the middle of the floor and she couldn't get up. And I was like, what is going on? So we ended up taking her to the hospital, and we found out that she had lung cancer, brain cancer, and skin cancer. And what had happened is the cancer was eating out the bones in her kneecaps, and that's what caused her to fall.
Wow.
And so I said, God will put you where he needs you to be sometimes. And I'm telling you, Queen, I thought about my mother being sick. I thought about me being adopted and me missing all those years with her. I thought about the abuse. I thought about I had wanted to get out of the situation for so long. And I said, God just gave me that open door to do it right there when she got sick. And so what happened is he ended up going to work that day. And I remember just getting my stuff and coming down to see my mother. And I vowed once I spent time with her that I was never going back. I said, I'm not going back. I can't do this. I need to be there for her. And I'm not going back to an abusive relationship. And in that moment, I left. I had had enough. I'd had enough. I got tired of being called out my name. Mm-hmm. I got tired of being belittled. I got tired of being in isolation from my family and friends. I got tired of making excuses. I got tired of feeling embarrassed. I couldn't cry anymore because I had cried my last year. I was just over it. And I knew that if I didn't leave to be with my mother, that I would miss those important moments that she needed me to be there, because I knew she wouldn't be here much longer. And so I left in that moment. My brothers came and got me, and I moved to Salisbury to be with her. And when I came down here, which I'm glad that I came when I did, and I'm so glad that God opened up that door for me when he did, because she was really, really in bad shape. When I got down here, my mother had tumors the size of golf balls in her head. She was screaming day in and day out. The cancer was eating her literally from the inside out. And so my brother, I had two brothers that were in prison. I had a sister that was in prison. And so me and my youngest brother were the only people here dealing with this at that time. And right before she got real sick, she told me, before, when I left my husband and I came to here to Salisbury, she looked at me and she said, Chariel, she said, don't come down here if you're not ready to be over him. She said, because you don't need to go back and forth and do what you're doing. She said, if you're done, be done. And I looked at my mother, and I never forget. I told her, I said, Mom, I'm done. She said, okay, now let's live. She said, now let's live. And so in the moment of her giving me the strength to live, she was dying. She was dying, you know. And I remember the night that she passed away. I remember all those things that she said to me. I remember how she uplifted me in my weakest moments. I remember how she looked at him and told him, I would kill you if you put your hands on my child again. You know, I remembered all those wonderful things that she said to me. And believe it or not, he ended up he apologized to me for all those things.
How many years later?
It took him maybe about a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
About a year and a half, because he finally had come to the conclusion that we were never going to be together again. He actually came looking for me. He came to Salisbury looking for me. And when he found me, that was the first time I was able to tell him how I was feeling without being afraid of being hit.
Yes, yes.
I could finally talk.
And he knew you had changed, and he knew that he couldn't hit you. He knew, yeah.
Because my brothers wasn't having it.
Yes, he knew.
He knew in that moment, but he did. He apologized to me. We made amends through the years. We really did. We made amends through the years. I wish no harm on him or nothing. I'm glad that he had come to the point to where he understood the things that he did was wrong. And that he took out a lot of that, what he was feeling on me, and he shouldn't have, because not only did he abuse me, but he abused the lady before me, and he also abused the woman after me.
Yeah, of course. And
they had a child together, you know, not to put their business out there, but she would call me sometimes, and she would ask me, what should I do? Leave. That's what I told her. You know, I would tell her, just leave, because it's not going to get better. I mean, with a person like that, until they come to the conclusion that what they're doing is wrong and that it's not you, it's them, you're always going to be the problem. And I wanted her to understand that I had to come to the conclusion that I wasn't the problem. I came into the relationship a happy soul and left abused and battered and torn and broken. And so I wanted her to understand that that's not the way us women supposed to live. And we can't blame each other for what he put us through.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time that you felt that you might die, or were you afraid that he might kill you?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. One night we got into it real bad. He was supposed to be going to work that night. He had a friend who was supposed to come and get him. And he decided he didn't want to go to work that night after this friend had come from a pretty good distance to pick him up. And so he had asked me to go tell the friend that he wasn't going to work. And I said, I'm not telling him, you tell him. The rage came. He'd been drinking all that day. And that night I said, I'm not doing this with you tonight. I said, I'm not fighting you tonight. So I grabbed my stuff. My brother lived like 2 blocks over, my youngest brother. And so I grabbed my stuff. I said, I'm just going to walk over here to my brother's house. And honey, let me tell you, I got halfway up the street and this man, I turned around and he was following me. I was scared to death. And so we were walking and I got to this little side street, dead end street. And I don't know how he caught up with me, but he did. And when he caught me, he beat me out there. And I'm out here by myself at night. He literally beat me out of my clothes that night. This was the first time he had ever bruised my face. He took my face and stomped my face into the ground. And this was after he had beat my clothes. I'm out here with my breast all out, my top off and everything. And he was stomping my face in the ground and telling me I could kill you and nobody would be able to find your body.
Yes. Yeah. That part.
Jesus, that was one of the scariest things I had ever experienced in my life because I couldn't get away. And I kept trying to get away from him and I couldn't get away. And then all of a sudden, God just gave me strength. I'm not lying to you, Queen. He gave me strength. And I snatched up because I had a fleece on, I had a scarf on my head and I was running in my bra and everything. And I picked this stuff up as I'm running. I'm just gone. I'm running down the street. And so he come running behind me. I went to his mother's house because I was closer to his mom's house than I was to my brother's. And so I just ran to the mom's house and I was like, if I keep ringing this doorbell, this woman is going to wake up and come out and she's going to go off. And so what I would do is I would go to the back door, I would ring the doorbell. And when he would come to the back, I would run to the front, I would ring the doorbell. And we did that probably about 3 times. And then she come outside and she was like, what is going on out here? I said, your son just beat me in the middle of the street and I need the phone to call the police. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that I felt like she was kind of on my side for real, because she gave me the phone to call the cops. And when I tried to call the police, he had gotten in the house by this time. He kept hanging up the phone, kept hanging it up. I never did talk to the police. So I grabbed my purse and headed out the door. He snatched my purse out of my hand, threw all my stuff all in the yard. And by the time I got out in the yard, good Queen, it was like 12 police pulling up and they pulled up fast. And when they saw me out there, because I still I had my bra in my pocket, my shirt was in my pocket, my face was bruised up really bad, my stuff was thrown all over the yard. And they looked at him and they said, ma'am, you don't even have to tell us what happened. He will be going to jail tonight. And so that was the first time that he went to jail for hitting me. He went to jail. They locked him up. And they had told me, the police told me, they said it looks like a domestic dispute. They said, rightfully, both of y'all supposed to go to jail. But they said, ma'am, we can look at you and tell he really did a number on you. And the cop asked me, he said, would you like to go to the hospital? I said, no. I said, can you take me home? Because we were at his mother's house that weekend, but we had our own house. And so I went home. The police took me home. And he said, be careful. He said, because a lot of times when you lock up a man like that, they come back and they will kill you.
Yes.
No, he said, so I need you to, and I was at this big old house out here in the country by myself. So he wanted me to be very, very careful. He said, do I need to go get a friend for you or something? But my best friend called me. She stayed on the phone with me all night long because I was so distraught. She was afraid that I was going to hurt myself too. She was very scared for me that night. And so I remember he was locked up for 48 hours. And I remember he came home and Queen, I was in my bedroom. He come in the house and I didn't even know he was in there. I had no clue he was in the house.
Was it the same night they let him out the same night?
That was 48 hours later, 2 days later.
Okay, you said 48 hours, yes.
He got out and he came in and I could hear him and I was so scared. I was like, oh God, he's going to beat me again. I was so scared that when he came in, I pushed the dress up against the door and he was just banging on the door. He's like, I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you. I said, no. I said, I can't talk to you right now. I said, he said, no. He said, Chariel. He said, no. He said, you did the best thing you could ever did for me the other night was locking me up. He said, we talked through the door. Okay. We talked through the door. We had a full conversation through the door because I was so scared to open up that door. But what I did is I had the phone in there too. So I called my mother and I had her on the phone with me when I opened up the door. And he dropped to his knees in front of me and he's like, I'm sorry. He said, I shouldn't have did that. He said, I ain't no jail type of person. He said, and I ain't never really been to jail. He said, that really scared me. I said, how you think I felt? You tried to kill me and you told me you would take my life from me and my family will be able to find my body.
And it happened.
Yeah. That scared me to death. I was done. I was like, no, we can't come back from. There was no coming back from that. No coming back. You tried to kill me. No coming back from that. I would not give you a second chance to do that again. So. And
you said something earlier that one of your friends asked you. Well, you said that your friend was concerned whether or not that you would try to commit suicide or hurt yourself. Did you ever contemplate it or think about suicide?
I did. I understand how people can get to that point to where it's like, I don't even want to live no more. I was hurt and deep inside. I was depressed. I was isolated. I had a lot of people that was in my corner, but in my mind, I felt like nobody was there for me. And when I went back to that house that night, I was in a depression that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And what got me out of it was my friend Stephanie. Shout out to Stephanie Campbell, because Stephanie talked me out of that. And she kept saying, you're beautiful, you're talented, you got so much to offer the world. You haven't even seen what you're capable of yet. You know, she really talked with me that night and really helped me to understand who I was as an individual. And for the first time, Queen, I listened because every time before that, it was going in one ear and straight out the other one. But my life was on the line at this point. And so I needed to hear that. And I will forever be grateful for her for calling me that night and talking with me and ensuring that I did not hurt myself and I did not allow anybody else to hurt me anymore after that.
Yes. So you walked away. Go ahead.
Sorry, and Wendy Jones too, because Wendy Jones stepped up for me a lot too. He put me out in the streets. I have nowhere to go when Wendy Jones came and picked me up. So I had a tribe that was fighting for me, girl. They was fighting for me. I'm not going to lie. They were fighting, but I had to come to the realization on my own, and it took a while, but we got there.
Yes. And then that's basically it. You know, we can lead a horse to the water.
That's right.
But we can't make them drink. And
my sister too. My sister was on me too. I remember that the day he put me out in the streets, my sister came with a baseball bat, ready to kill him. she had that bat in her hand and she was going crazy. But I ended up staying with her for a little while too. My sister stepped in a lot of times for me too.
So how many times did you leave before you walked away? Because statistics states that it takes the average woman 7 to 10 times to walk away and stay away. How many times did it take you?
Took me 5 times.
5 times.
5 times. 5 times I walked away and came back. 5 times. After the 5th time, there was no coming back from that. Yes, ma'am. I was done.
So you walked away. And let's talk about life after the abuse, and that's going to lead us into what it is that you're doing now and the Queens in training.
Yes.
Everything you just described, if someone else knew how to handle some of that, maybe they wouldn't stay as long.
Right. That's right. Well, I think what really helped me 6 months after I left him, like I said, my mother was sick. That was the reason why I left. 6 months after I left, my mother passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
So it was Now she's gone. You're out of this relationship. What do you do now? I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. But God always gave you a ram in the bush. Latasha Gaines came into my life. And me and Latasha had talked about some things that I wanted to do with my life. And she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to college. I want to finish college. And she said, well, let's go. She took me up to Rowan Cabarrus Community College and she helped assign me in school. And I enrolled in college, and that became my saving grace, going to school. I poured everything I had of me into school. I went and got my business degree, came out. I really loved working with children, being the fact that I was adopted and we had experienced children in and out of our home throughout our whole life. I went and I took early childhood classes. I became an early childhood educator. And through early childhood, that's when I started meeting the mothers that were going through similar things that I had been through. And I remember talking with the different moms coming in and out of the center, and they were discussing what it was like to be a parent dealing with abuse and trying to raise your child, what it was like to be a mom and barely making ends meet to feed your kids, all these different things they were telling me. And I was like, I need to provide a space for these women. I need to do something to help them. And matter of fact, one of the children that were in my class, her mother, me and her collaborated, and we actually started my nonprofit organization. She's actually the president of my nonprofit organization. And her daughters are all grown in college now. But throughout the years, they played a major role in us providing a platform for young women to be able to come and talk about the things that they were dealing with, from Queens in Training to the Queendom Nation to Kings in Training, because we also work with young boys and young men as well to help them understand the different things that they were dealing with, because they didn't have a space. Everybody was like, y'all always got stuff for the women, but what about the men? Mm-hmm. So we provided a space to reach the young men as well as the young women. And that's what birthed the platform of the Queendom Nation, because we needed a space where we could talk about the things that we have been through, not be judged, not be ridiculed, not be embarrassed, but
not feel bad about. Yes,
exactly. We needed to empower each other, and so my space became a space for us to be able to empower one another.
I like that. And you said something about the women that came. The parents. Yeah. Could you see the abuse? Could you tell that they were being abused?
Some of them you could. Some of them you could. Because being that we had been through it, you could recognize the signs.
You recognize it, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And some of them were reluctant to talk about it, but I have this demeanor about me that I can get you to talk about it, especially when I reveal to you the things that I've been through. Yes. It makes it a little bit easier for them to be able to tell you about the things that they're going through.
So how important is transparency? How important is it for women like you, myself, and others that have survived domestic abuse? And maybe everyone doesn't want to be transparent, but how important is it to help someone else?
It's very important because I used to ask God, why are you taking me through this stuff? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Mm-hmm. But what God was doing for people like me and for people like you, he made us a vessel. And the vessel that we had to do is we had to take our stories and we have to share them, because so many other women will have the strength to walk away and just to even become the women that they are, just by knowing that there are other women out here that have experienced the same thing that they have. Because it's different when you feel like you're the only one. But it makes such a profound impact when you know that other women are going through the exact same thing and they're not afraid to speak about it. Mm-hmm. I believe the more transparent we are about it, the more women that we can save. Because until they, like me, I didn't really know nothing about domestic violence back then. I didn't know men did that to you. Nobody had that conversation with me. And so I'm so glad that now people like yourself, people like me, that we can provide these type of platforms where we can let you know ahead of time, to see the signs, to look for them, to understand that it ain't your fault, to understand that you are not somebody's punching bag, to understand that you can still come through this and still be a wonderful person after all is said and done, after you've been broken and put back together like Humpty Dumpty. That it can all be okay, but we have to understand that we have to speak about these things to help our fellow women, to help them, because statistics are so big when it comes to women dying from these circumstances. I don't want to see any queen. I don't care what color you are. If your Muppet ate the 80 deaf, dumb and crazy. I don't want to see any woman dying at the hands of a man because it's something that maybe we could have helped her prevent.
I like that. I love that, actually. How important is it for us to pour back into women, young women, to affirm them, to allow them to know at an early age that they're worthy, and to build the confidence or the higher level of self-esteem in them, so that when they started dating or when they start dating, they see the signs, they understand the signs, but they know that they can walk away from the sign. They can walk away because they feel good enough about themselves on the inside that they can walk away.
That was so why Queens in Training is so important.
Yes.
Because in Queens in Training, we have those type of discussions.
Mm-hmm.
We let them know, especially the young girls, we let them know what love looks like, what it doesn't look like, what it accumulates to, what it does not accumulate to. Queens in Training is a place where they can come together, where we not only have young girls, but we have grown women in there, especially mother and daughter compatibility. We have them in there as well, because what happens is the older women help to talk to these younger girls about a lot of the things that they have not yet seen in life. We've already experienced these things, so we're just going to kind of give you a heads up of what's going on. You're going to make your own choices. We understand, but we're here to enlighten you, to let you see that everything out there is not peaches and cream, that we want you to know that the devil is dressed and looking good, wearing Timbs, wearing wife beaters, wearing suits in the church. They are everywhere. And we have to be careful, and we have to know our surroundings and who we are dealing with when it comes to giving of our bodies, when it comes to giving of our minds, when it comes to just giving of ourselves completely. Because we do that when we meet these men. We wrap all of us into them and get nothing in return. So we help to talk to young girls so that they can understand, first of all, who they are. Because when they know who they are first, they won't let anybody else treat them any kind of way. Because what they're looking for out there in these men, they're looking for love. They're looking for validation. They're looking for somebody to say I'm pretty or I'm nice. They're looking for these things. But we want them to know you already got that in you, and you don't need him to tell you that. That's why I come in my crown while we go to the school in the crown, because I want them to see that this is who we are. This is what we come from. We didn't come to be anybody's punching bag. We didn't come to be anybody's slave. We didn't come to be just a doormat for somebody. We are our own individuals. We are our own women. We can think on our own. And if we stick together and help each other understand the dynamics of who we are as an individual, we can really, really help these young women out here.
And how early should we start educating them and empowering them?
The moment they even look at a boy. Because believe it or not, I have kids in my organization that have started since the age of 5 and 6 years old. Yes, because what we're not understanding too is nowadays they're getting younger and younger with the abuse. I watched the video yesterday where they
elementary and middle school.
Boys. Yeah, they had 2 young boys that was, I think, like 6 and maybe 11, did something to this 5-year-old little girl. It was on the news yesterday. And so I'm thinking the younger, we catch them. These kids understand. They're a lot smart than we give them credit for. Yeah. These kids are smart. And so I think, once they get to that age where they start understanding the concept, then you start putting it in them. Because like my granddaughters, let me tell you, they grandfather, he don't play. He let them know. And my granddaughters are 5, 6, 7, up in that area, 11. He let them know. No man put their hands on you, and they'll tell you, ain't nobody gonna hit me. They got it in them now.
Yes.
Now. So that way in them teenage years, it's already in them. By the time they become a woman, it's already in them. So yes, ma'am. Good.
So there's 2 more things that we're going to wrap up.
Yes, ma'am.
You're married again?
Well, not yet, but I'm just with somebody for a long time.
Okay.
We're working
out. How's that relationship?
It's good. He allows me to be me.
Good.
He allowed me to come into who I'm supposed to be. And when I first met him, I remember being, every time he would come near me,
Yes.
and that bothered him a lot. He would always reassure me, I'm not going to hit you. I would never put my hands on you. And he hasn't. 24 years, never put his hands on me. He wanted me to understand that he respected me as an individual. He wanted me to come into my own, because when I was in college, he was on me about get them studies done. You did your homework today? Like, he wanted me to understand who I was as an individual. He allowed me to be an individual, very supportive of everything that I've ever done. Like I said, I remember I was doing events and he'd be the only person there. Very, very supportive of me and everything that I've ever done. Was the first person to buy my book. When I dropped the copy of my book, was at my book signing. Very supportive. Totally different relationship. Totally different.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you for that. I'm happy for you as well. So tell us about your book, and then tell us about the crown, the tiara that you're wearing, and the sash. Regal elegance.
Yes. So my book is, and we'll do this real quick, is Women in Entrepreneurship. How do we beat the odds? Yes. And I wrote this book for all women that want to become entrepreneurs, but we have to get that mind frame first. This helps you get in the mindset of an entrepreneur, and it helps you understand all the different things, the barriers that they put in our way to keep us women down as an entrepreneur. This book is your blueprint to get past those barriers and say, look, I got this. Ain't no barrier going to stop me from doing what I'm doing. So you can find this book on Amazon.com. You can also find it on my website, queendomchronicles47.wordpress.com. There's a link on there for you to get it. And with the crown, I am part of the Regal Elegance National Pageant System, and I am your 2025 Regal Elegance Essence Queen. They surprised me this year with this because I can't always go every year to help my sister queens at nationals. I help them in the back. And this year they honored me for coming to help my fellow sister queens in the back as they prepare for the pageant. So I'm truly honored. But if you would love to be a part of this wonderful pageant system, we are the Regal Elegance Pageant System at regalelegancepageant.com. Please go in there. We are actually looking for some young queens that want to be a part of us. Go join us. And we are on Facebook at the Regal Elegance National Pageant.com as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I have so enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. Me
thank
too.
You for your transparency. Thank you for your empowerment. And thank you for your strength. And may God continue to bless everything that you touch, because you're doing a good thing with the Queendom Nation.
Thank you so much. And they can look me up on the Queendom Nation radio show on Facebook as well.
Yes, tell us about that.
Yes. And we also have Queens and Things on Facebook as well, where I make all kind of floral arrangements. I do candles, all that stuff. So look me up on Facebook, Queendom Nation radio show, Queens and Things. I'm also a writer. So I have the Queendom Nation, I have the Queendom Chronicles, where you will see my blogs on there, and you will also see my spoken word on there. So check us out.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Tell the audience 3 things that has helped you to survive.
One thing is family.
Family.
Number 2 is friends.
Friends.
And number 3 is understanding who I am as an individual and not letting nobody take that away from me.
God, family, and friends, and knowing yourself.
That's
understanding yourself.
Knowing who you are.
Yes.
Yep.
I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great night, okay?
You do the same. Thank you so much for having me, Queen.
You are welcome. Thank you.